Hello everyone, welcome to channel Q Automation. Today we will see about frame or iframe handling in Selenium. So what exactly is frame, or we can say iframe? So in web development, a frame and a iframe are both used to divide a web page into separate sections or frames that can load different content independently. So iframes or frames are typically used to show multiple web pages within a single web page. So iframes or frames, so we can call it frame or we can call it as a iframes. So in web development, iframes are both used to divide a web page into separate sections or that can load different content independently. So sometimes on web page we can see there are different sections which can load different content independently of each other. Those sections are known as iframe, or we can say it as a frames, and they are typically used to show multiple web pages within a single web page. Now let me show you one example, then we can understand in better way. So I am just going to open one website. On that website, if you see, let me open this website. So this is the website which is open. If you see on this website, there are three different sections. So this is the first section. If you see, I can scroll easily, and this is basically one section. This is second section in which we can enter the name or any value. Now these two sections are independent of each other. There is one more section, that is third section, right? So this is the third section. So these are basically three frames which are present in this web page. So this is the single web page, and in this single web page there are three different sections are present. So these are basically known as frames. So frames are used to divide the web page into separate sections, and each section is independent. So there is a different content in each section. If you see here, if you see, there are multiple links are present. In this section there are input fields, paragraph field, and some buttons are there. In third section again there is some text content, there are some options, and there is a paragraph, right? So all the three sections are basically three frames. We can say these are three frames. And if I want to interact, so if I want to interact with the web element which are present inside this frame, so we cannot directly interact with them. So before interacting with them, we have to first switch into that frame. So if I want to click on this background link, so the first step will be I will have to switch to this frame or iframe. I will have to switch to this frame or iframe, and then only I can locate this element and I can interact with that element. Similarly, if I want to interact with the element present in this iframe, then I will have to first switch to this frame, and then only I would be able to interact with these elements. So that's about the frame, or we can say iframe. So in HTML, if I inspect this code, so let me just inspect this code, and if I want to see the tag name, so if you see, so basically iframes or frames are defined with tag as iframe. It can be a frame, or sometimes it can be even a form tag. So these are the three type of tags which would be used for iframes or frames. So if I simply, let me search with iframe or simply frame. When I am searching for frame, we can see there are three frames are getting highlighted. That means these are the three frames which are present in our web page. If you see, this is the frame 1, this is the frame 1 which is getting highlighted, this is frame 2 which is again getting highlighted, and this is frame 3 which is getting highlighted. So there are total 3 frames in our web page, and whenever we want to interact with that element which are present inside these frames, we have to first switch to that specific frame. Now we will see practical one example. Now my use case is, or let's say the action which I want to perform is from this first frame. So if you see, this is the frame 1. So from this frame I want to click on these tables. So when I click on these tables, let's see what happens. I am just clicking manually now. After clicking on table, it is opening the tables page, right? It is opening the information of tables tag. So that is first scenario I want to perform. After clicking on the tables in this frame, now we are in second iframe, or we can say in second frame. In second frame, I want to pass in this input field, let's say I want to pass the value, I want to pass some value in it. In second frame, in this enter your name field, I want to pass this value. This is my second action. And after passing this value, the next thing I want to do is inside this third frame, I want to click on text style. Text style. I want to click on that option, that is text style. That should display this content. Now these are the three actions which I want to perform via automation. Now let's see. I am just refreshing this page one more time. Right, so what is the three action we want to perform via script is from first frame, clicking on these tables. In second frame, I want to pass some value here. And in third frame, I want to click on one of the option, that is text style option. Now let's see practically how we can do it. So I am just going to PyCharm. Let's create a new Python file. I have named it as a frame demo 1. So this is the Python file which we have created. Now I am just adding the code. So this is the common code which we have used in our previous sessions as well. So in this code, what we are doing is we are simply importing Selenium packages like WebDriver, options class, service class. So to keep the browser open even after the script ends. So whenever we creating options class object, and that in that object we are passing experimental option detach as true. So why we are adding this is, and after that we are creating a service class object in which we are passing executable path. This is the path to browser driver, that is Chrome driver. We are passing the path of Chrome driver here in service class object within executable path parameter. And after creating these two objects we are passing in while creating driver instance. So here we are creating a driver instance, webdriver.chrome, in which we are passing these two parameters. First one is for keeping the browser open even after the ending the script. If you don't pass this, then script will automatically end. Browser will instantly closed if you don't pass this. But we want to see some results, right? So that's why I am keeping it open after the script end. That's why I am passing these values. And then we can pass driver.get. Inside this we have to pass URL of the page. So what URL we have to pass is, I am just copying it, and let's pass the web page in which we have seen frames, right? We have seen 3 frames were present in that web page. Now when we execute this script, it will launch the browser and it will open that web page. Now what I want to do is, let's first see, like traditional way, if I without switching to the iframe, if I normally try to locate that element, what will happen? So first action, which action we want to do first? We want to click on these tables. This is the link. So let's inspect this element and let's try to find out link for that tables. So we can use partial link or link text. So I am just inspecting that tables. So what is the link text here? So tables is a link text. So I am just copying it. So what is the first step? So I will do we want to write, or we want to click on that link, right? So I will just write driver dot find element by dot link text. So we are going to use link text, comma table. So this is the link text which we are passing, and after that we want to click on it. So I am just clicking on it, that is present in frame 1. After that, what action we want to do? So after clicking on these tables, I want to pass the value in this enter your name input field, which is present inside frame 2. Now let's try to identify locator or XPath for this field. So tag name is input. We can use this name attribute. I am just going to use this name attribute. Let's try to write XPath for this. So tag name is input, 2 times /s, after that input tag name. I am writing the relative XPath now. Let's write @name equals to name. So it should locate that field. If you see, this XPath is able to locate this input field. So I am just copying this XPath. Let's go back to script. Now I am just using driver dot find element by dot XPath, and in which we can pass the XPath value, and then we can use send keys method, and we can pass the text which we want to pass. So I am just inputting the text as a automation that we want to pass into that input field. So after inputting this field, what is the third action we want to do is, in the third frame I want to click on this text style option. So I want to click on this text style option. So now let's inspect that element. So let's try to find out via this inner text. So I can just use Control F, and let's try to write XPath for this. 2 times /s. I can use star after that, and I can also use text method. So let's try to use text method, comma yeah, if you see here now, I have used text method equals to this text, that is text style. So it should able to locate that element. So this is the locator XPath. I am just copying it, and we want to click on that. So what I will do, I will simply write driver dot find element by dot XPath, then comma, and I want to click on this option. So dot click method. Now all this action I have written, right? So these are the steps I have written. So if there are no iframes, so in normal way, if you want to perform these actions, it will execute correctly. But now there are basically these 3 elements are present inside the frames. So first I will run it, and let's see what happens or what error it throws. So I am just running this file. So it should launch the browser. It will launch the browser, then it will open that web page. And after opening the web page, let's see what error is occurring. So if you see, it is throwing some exception. It is unable to find no such element, right? So it is not able to find the element. Which element it is not able to find? These tables, right? So first element which we have mentioned here, our script is not able to find this element. Because why it is not able to find is because these elements are present inside the frames, and we cannot directly interact with the element which are present inside the frame. First we have to switch to that frame. First I should switch to this frame 1, and then I can click on that tables link. So that is the first step, right? So before interacting with any element present inside the frame, we have to first switch to that frame. So for that, we have one method, driver dot switch to dot frame, and in this method driver dot switch to dot frame, we can pass any one value from the four things. So which value, what we can pass here is, we can pass either ID of that frame, or we can pass name of the frame, or we can pass frame as a web element. We can also locate that frame as a web element, and we can pass the web element value inside that, or we can also pass index of that frame. So these are four things which we can pass inside this to identify the frame or to switch to the frame. So we want to switch to frame, but which frame, that we can identify via ID, via name, or we can identify by the frame as a web element, or simply we can pass the index as well. Now we will see in coming example. So first we will use frame. So whatever the value is available, that we can use, but sometimes ID might not be available, name might not be available. In that situation we can use web element or index, or sometimes we can also use, if ID of the frame is present, then we can use ID directly. If name of the frame is present, then we can pass that name as well. But if ID or name is not present, then we can use index or frame as a web element. Now in our case, let's see what is available and what is not available. So if you inspect this code, I want to switch to frame 1, right? So let's try. So let's highlight this frame, first frame. So this is the second frame, if you see. Or you can simply click frame, so it will highlight all the frames. So if you see, this is the first frame, this is the second, and this is the first frame, right? So this is the first frame. If you see, there is only source, there is no name attribute or there is no ID attribute. So what I will do in this example, I will use frame as a web element. So what I will do, I will just right click on it, copy the X path. Let's go back to the script and let's store that X path and identify the element. So what I will do, let's say I am mentioning, or I am storing it in a variable called as a myFrame1. So this is the web element type, and we can simply use driver dot find element by dot XPath, comma, and then the XPath which we have copied here. This is the XPath, or this is the locator of that frame. That is the frame 1. So this is the locator of that frame 1. So I am just storing it in a myFrame1 web element. And this web element, myFrame1, we can pass this myFrame1, we can pass via switching, right? So if you see, so this line I will simply use after that. So I am first identifying the frame as a web element, and then let's switch to driver.switch to dot frame, in which we can pass this myFrame1 value, right? So in which we can pass myFrame1. So it will switch to that frame 1, right? So it will switch to frame 1, and after that it should be able to find that tables link and it will click on it, right? So now let's execute this file and let's see what happens. So it will launch the browser again. And if you see, it has already clicked on the tables, right? It already clicked on tables, but it is not able to pass any value inside this. Why? Because after switching to frame 1, it performed the action. It actually clicked on the table. And if you see the error also, let's see the error this time. No such element, unable to locate element. So this time it is unable to locate this one, right? So this is the second element. That is the input field which we were checking to pass the string value. So if you see, I am just minimizing it. So it is unable to find which element this time? This element. So in frame 1 it is able to locate that element. It also clicked on the tables, right? But after that it is not able to find out this element. Why? Because if you see, this is our main web page, right? So this is the main web page. If you consider this as a parent page, right? So as soon as the website opened, the WebDriver control was present on the parent page. It was present on the parent page. And inside this parent page, there are 3 frames: iframe 1, iframe 2 and iframe 3. These are individual frames. They are completely independent of each other. And all 3 frames are present inside parent page. So as soon as the web page loaded, the WebDriver control was present on parent page. Then we switch to iframe 1. Then we switch to iframe 1. After switching to iframe 1, we interacted with that element, whatever present in the iframe 1. We clicked on the table sling. After that, what we are doing? We are again trying to locate the element which is present inside the frame 2. But we haven't switched to that, right? So we have not switched to that frame. Now let's see, what if I switch to frame 2? So for that again we want to identify the frame, right? So I want to inspect it. Let's inspect it. Control F. So here we can see it's a frame tag, but sometimes it can be iframe as well. So this is the second frame. Yeah, so this is the second frame, and let's copy the XPath for the second frame as well. I have just copied the XPath. So again I will use, let's say, my frame 2 driver dot find element by dot XPath. It will identify the frame 2 and we are storing it in the my frame 2, and then I am just again copying this switch to command before interacting with frame 2 element. So here I will just put my frame 2, and for my frame 3 as well, what I will do again, let's try to inspect third frame. So this is the third frame. I am just copying the XPath of third frame, iframe, right? So this is the third frame. So again I will just use my frame. So this is just a web element or variable in which we are storing it, storing the frame as a web element. Driver dot find element by dot XPath, after that comma, and this is the locator of that frame 3, and then again I will use driver dot switch to dot frame, and I will pass my frame 3. So let's see if it works via this way or not. So I will just again run this file. So it is launching the browser. So it clicked on table. So now this time also it clicked on table only, which is inside the frame 1, but it is not able to locate second frame element and third frame element. Why so? If you see the error also, it is unable to locate that element, that is frame 2. Why it is unable to locate the frame 2 yet? So the answer is here. So if you see, all the 3 iframes are present inside the parent page, and all 3 are independent of each other. So whenever the website loaded, our focus of the WebDriver was present on parent page. Then we switch to iframe 1. We interacted with the element present inside the iframe 1. And then again we are trying to switch to iframe 2 directly, and then trying to interact with iframe 2 element. After that we are again trying to switch to iframe 3 directly, and we are trying to locate the element. But this is not the way we can do it. We cannot directly transfer the control of WebDriver from iframe 1 to iframe 2 directly. We are trying to jump from iframe 1 to iframe 2 directly, and then from iframe 2 to iframe 3 directly. So the right way to do is, from parent page we are switching to iframe 1. We are interacting with the elements present inside the iframe 1. After that we should switch back to parent page. After that we should switch back to parent page, and again from parent page we can switch to iframe 2. Then we can interact with the element present inside the iframe 2. Then we can again switch back to parent page, and from the parent page we should switch to iframe 3 and interact with the element present in iframe 3. So instead of switching directly from iframe 2 to iframe 3, what is the right approach is, we should first switch from iframe 1 to parent page, then parent page to iframe 2, then iframe 2 to parent page, and from parent page to iframe 3. That is the correct approach, right? So I will just switch the code. So how to go back to the parent page? So what is happening in our script is, in step 1 we are loading the website, we are present on the parent page, then we are switching to iframe 1. In iframe 1 we are identifying the tables link and we are clicking on it. After identifying and clicking on that, we should go back to the parent page. We should move the focus of the driver to parent page. How to do that? Do that? How to switch the focus back to parent page? So for that we have one method. So here we are switching to, basically here, right? So driver dot switch to, we are clicking on tables here, right? So we are, after this statement we are still in iframe 1, right? So we are still in frame 1. So after that we should go back to parent page. So for that what we have to do is, we have to use driver dot switch to default content. Driver dot switch to default content. So this will move the focus back to parent page. So it should go back to parent page, and after that we can switch to frame 2. So after that again we are switching to frame 2, and after switching to frame 2 we are interacting with the frame 2 element, and after that we should again go back to parent page. So I will just copy this statement and I will just paste it again here. So now it will move to the parent page, and then again we are identifying the my frame 3. So we are identifying the frame 3 and we are switching to frame 3, and then we should be able to click on that text styling. So this is the right approach. Now let's execute this file and see, this time it is able to click on all the 3 actions or not. It should be able to perform all the 3 actions. So let's execute this file. So it will launch the browser, then it will click on tables, it will pass some input value in second, and it will click on text style. So this time everything is worked correctly. If you see, it clicked on tables, then it passed the value in this input field as a Qt automation in frame 2, and it also clicked on the text style, right? It actually clicked on text style, but it actually happened very fast. So what I will do, I will just closing it, I will just add some pause so that we can see it happening in real time, in slowly. So what I will do, I am just adding some time dot, let's say sleep, 3 seconds delay I am adding. Here also I am adding 3 seconds delay, and let's execute this file one more time. So now it will again launch the browser. From frame 1 it will click on tables, then in frame 2 it will pass the string value, and then in frame 3 it will click on text style. So if you see, all the three actions happen correctly. So this is how we can do it. So let's revise one more time. So in web development, frame or iframe. So in this example we have seen as a frame. Both are used to divide the web page into separate sections or frames that can be load different content independently. So frames or iframes are typically used to show multiple web pages within a single web page. So in this example, if you see, there is a parent page, iframe 1, iframe 2 and iframe 3. So we have seen the example. So if I want to interact with the elements present inside the multiple frames, what is the flow here? So as soon as the web page loads, we are on parent page. So we should first switch to iframe 1, interact with the element present in iframe 1, then switch back to parent page. From parent page again switch to iframe 2, interact with the element present in iframe 2, then again switch back to parent page, and from parent page we can switch to iframe 3 or any other frame as well. So here we have to understand that we cannot jump from iframe 1 to iframe 2 directly. We have to first go back to parent page, and that we can do via default content, switch to default content. So before interact with element inside a frame or iframe, you need to switch to WebDriver focus to that frame. We can use the switch to frame method to do this, and inside this switch to dot frame we can pass frame as a web element, the example which we have seen, in which we have passed the frame web element. So we have passed the frame as a web element. We have identified the each frame by its locator, right? We have stored it in myframe 2, myframe 3, myframe 1. So that is basically a web element. We have identified that frame as a web element, and that web element value we have passed into switch to dot frame. If there is a ID or name present for that specific frames, we can use name or ID as well. So we can use name or we can use ID of that frame, or we can also pass index as well. So index starts from 0. So in our web page there are, let's say, only one frame, then its index will be 0. If there are two frames, then the first index will be 0 and next index will be 1. And after that, if more frames are there, it will go on. So we can use index as well in that situation. So name and ID we will see example in next session or maybe in some time in another example. So after switching to the frame, we can interact with the elements inside it just like any other normal elements. And after finishing the interaction with that element which are present inside the frame, we have to switch WebDriver's focus back to the default content, that is main page, or we can say parent page, to interact with elements outside of the frame. With whatever element present inside the parent page, we can interact there. And if I want to again switch back to another frame, I will again use driver.switch2.frame. So that is the example which we have seen to understand what is frame or iframe and how to handle those. Now let's see. In coming session we will see one more example of the frame or iframe, we can say, and in that session what we will do, we will pass name or ID. We will pass name or ID of the frame, any one of them. So it depends on what is exactly available. Now in this example, if you see the example which we have seen here, right? So we have passed frame as a web element. Now what I will do, I will slightly modify and I will use index, right? So I will use index. So how many frames are there? There are 3 frames. So index always starts with 0. So for frame 1, I am not going to use frame as a web element. So what I will do, I am just commenting this. Let's comment this. So driver dot switch to dot frame. So instead of this web element, I can pass index as well. So 0 is the index of first frame. This is the index of first frame. Then I will just click on the tables. Remaining code will remain same. And then I will going back to the parent page. Now again, I don't need this web element if I am going to use the index. So I will just commenting it. Driver.switch2.frame. Here I can pass another index, that is 1. For next frame the index will be 1. and then I will just interact with the element present inside that frame 2, and I will move back to the parent page. And if I want to go to third frame, I will again use driver.switch2.frame. Index I can pass as a 2, so that will be considered as a third frame. It will find the element inside the third frame and it will click on it. So in the first time example we have seen, in that we have passed that frame as a web element, but I can use index as well. Now let's try to execute this. It should perform the same result. It should perform the same actions on it. So it will launch the browser. It clicked on tables, then it passed the value in it, and then it clicked on text style. So this is the three actions which we are performing. And this time what we have done, instead of identifying as a web element, we have used the index of the frames. So we have passed the index of the frames. So we can pass anything. So we can pass name, ID or index, or we can pass the frame as a web element. So in this example we have seen passing the frame as a web element as well as passing the frame as a in the form of index, right? So that is about frames and iframes. In coming session we will see one more example. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you really like my video, kindly subscribe to my channel. It really motivates me to create more videos. So thank you everyone. Have a great day ahead. Keep learning, keep growing.